Hey guys, Hackersploit here, back again with another video, and in this video we are going to be looking at the Sphere browser by Tenebris. Now a while ago one of you actually recommended this browser to me, so I decided why don't I check it out, and to be honest I'm completely blown away by how I missed this and how it went under my nose. So welcome to the Sphere browser review and a bit of a walkthrough as to how awesome it is. Now, if you haven't heard of it, which I'm guessing you haven't, it is a browser whose focus is on anonymity and security, but it has a little bit of an innovative twist. Now, you might be asking, well, what's different with this browser? This is probably the first browser I've reviewed when it comes down to anonymity and the security aspect of browsing. So, I'm always looking out for new projects that encourage this type of thing, when we talk about personal privacy and anonymity. So, once I took a look at this is an extremely good contender in this field, and that's why I thought, why not make a review video of it, just to explore how awesome this tool is and how great it can be as we move along in the future. Alright, so you can see I'm on the website right now, and it's currently on version 1.1. It is currently on the two platforms you can see right here. It's on Windows and Apple, and it is a completely free project. So the website will be linked in the description section if you want to check that out for yourself. So you can see the focus is anonymity, security, and the fact that it's absolutely free to use. Alright, so the website is quite awesome. It has multiple languages, as you can see. And if I scroll down, they have a mission page that essentially encapsulates what their mission is in regards to privacy and security. So you can see that it's simply highlighting the fact that all your activities on the internet are traced and recorded. Whether you're using search engines, emails, or you're communicating on social media, your activities are being recorded, and that's their primary goal, to stop this from happening. So you can see what is our mission. We dream of a free world with safe internet, with the right for everyone to a private life and expression of one's own opinion without fear of one's freedom. Here is the safest tool for anonymous internet surfing. Alright, now that is a fantastic goal, and that's exactly what I've been looking for. Now, of course, there's plenty of other anonymity solutions, for example, the Tor browser. But is the Tor browser a complete solution when it comes down to essentially controlling every aspect of your privacy and security? So if we scroll down to the bottom, you can see we have the technology that is used and the systems that are in place to make sure that your data is as private and you are as anonymous as possible when browsing. So let's start off with the first feature, which is the fact that you can change your identity in the click of a button, which you can see right here. The browser has systems for protection and fingerprint substitution, which means you can change your user agent, for example, your GPU, the audio devices you have connected, the canvas, the plugins, the fonts, the client information, and the cookies that you can change in the click of a button. Alright, so you can change each of these to give you a new unique identity. The problem with Tor is when you create a new identity with the Tor browser is it only changes your IP. It really isn't changing your user agent and the size of your screen. Precisely the reason why they actually encourage you not to maximize the screen, because it will the user agent contains that information. So with this browser, you can actually change it to whatever you like, and that's why you can see these few tabs I have right up here allow you to do that. All right, you then have OTR mode. Now, what is OTR mode? OTR stands for off the record. Now, if you don't know what off the record is, it is an implementation or rendition of the off the record messaging service, which was essentially an encryption protocol for messaging. But in this case, it encrypts all your files and data, and all your browsing activity is stored in your RAM. Now, the data that it is going to save is your identities, your custom identities that you create, encrypted, and I'll talk about the encryption protocol as we move along. Alright, so no data is being stored on the computer in relation to your browsing history. No logs are being saved at all. Alright, so when it comes down to the encryption protocol, you can see that we have AES 256 encryption, which means all your browsing information and your data that is going to be saved, like your identities and your bookmarks, are completely encrypted. And I'll show you that the browser does require a passphrase or a password when you launch it to access the browser. All right. You then have anonymity on the internet, which is the primary focus of this browser, which means you can change your or as they like to call it, substitute your IP addresses using Tor, using SOX5's proxies. You can also tunnel your traffic through SSH, and there's so much more that we'll look at once I started. And finally, my favorite, which is the absence of spying code right here, which is quite important for me because, as you can see, Sphere is designed using the Chromium core, as it's written right here. But it is totally devoid of all elements of Google spying. What that means is it's totally devoid of any of the processes that essentially return feedback and diagnostic data to Google, which means no data is being sent, to Google or to any other server, because it's based off Chromium. As you know, Chromium is open source. It's an open source for essentially the rendition of Google Chrome. All right, so it also has any of the other functions that you might find with Tor. So I'll get to that in a second. And finally, it is completely portable. It's a RAR file that you extract and you run without any installation. So for those of you who are always paranoid of what you're installing on your computer, you can test it out. It's completely portable. You can copy it from computer to computer and run it off even a flash drive if you want to. And finally, you have the software that the software screenshots here that determine how you're using it. And finally, it is completely free, and you can see that they encourage you to support them if you want to support this project moving forward. Now, we've gone through what their goals are and what the Sphere browser is. It's time to look at how it works. So I have it right now on Windows, and as you can see, I've already downloaded it and extracted the file here. And if I was to open up the folder, and let me just open up Sphere here, you can see that it's a completely portable file, and to start it we just have to type in Sphere. Alright, once we do that, it's going to start up Sphere, and it's going to automatically connect to Tor, not necessarily connect you and give you a browsing instance, but it's going to connect you to save you the time in the future. So you see, it's going to prompt you for a password. Now if it's your first time running this browser, you need to enter your original password and you need to save that. That is going to be the password that encrypts all your data in regards to this browser. Alright, so I'm doing that right now. I've entered my password and there you go. Now, when I was talking about the encryption of traffic and data, you might be asking, well, what's really important with encrypting your traffic when browsing? Well, let me give you a simple scenario. What if there is a man-in-the-middle attack and your data is susceptible to interception by a man-in-the-middle? If your data is encrypted, there's no way they're going to be able to decipher that data. So it really doesn't matter whether they're capturing packets coming from your computer or not. That data is completely encrypted. Now, of course, I recommend you using a good passphrase or a security key, as I like to call them, and you pretty much are fantastically secured. All right. Now, I don't really know whether that's a word, but let's get started. So you can see it's quite a simple browser in terms of functionality. You have your simple toolbar up here. You have your file, which allows you to select a new tab, close. You can also save the different web pages in different types of file formats. And you have your other functions like printing and quitting. In the edit tab, you can cut, you can copy, you can find, and you have your preferences, which I'll get to in a second. You have your view, which allows you to interact with the web page. Bookmarks, because this is very important. Many of you like saving bookmarks. Tools, and here we have your identities. So you can look at your current identities, which are listed here as well. You can import your own identity if you have saved one. You can download an identity. You can look at your downloads, not download an identity, but you can export identities as well. And you can reload Tor if you want, and you can change the Tor circuit. Now, you might be saying, well, what's different from this and Tor? I'll get to that in a second. And finally, you have your help menu, which contains documentation and the about project. Now, you can see something really interesting here. Apart from your back and forward buttons, you have your URL bar here. That's going to pop up one of these session setups. I'll get to that in a second. And you have your reload page, you can bookmark, and you have your Tor circuits right here. So this is where you have your tabs. So you can always add a tab with a unique individual identity. Alright, so right from here you can see you can create identities. So this is how this browser is sorted out in terms of identities. So you can create multiple identities with different network configurations in terms of whether you're using Tor, whether you're using SOX5 proxies, etc, etc. So let me show you how one would go about doing this. So let's say I wanted to create a new identity. So I would go into new identity right here, and I can click on create new identity. I can give it a name. So I'm going to call it let's see, I wanted to use Tor, and I'm going to call it default browsing. All right, this is a simple browsing, like so. And you can give comments if you want to, basically describing more about what this identity is about. And then in the network connectivity settings, you can specify a proxy, you can specify Tor, whether you want to go through HTTP, you want to use a SOCKS 5 proxy, whether you want to use an SSH tunnel, or whether you want to use Tor plus an SSH tunnel. In my case, I want to use Tor, and automatically I don't have to configure anything because it is going to connect to Tor. And the awesome thing about this that I really just love is the fact that I can change my time zone. This is something unheard of because you can automatically just change this depending on where you are, just to get a different experience of the web page. And of course you get the idea. Changing your identity like this is awesome, but this is not the best part yet. So let's say I wanted to change my time to UTC minus 300 hours. All right. And you can also change the HTTP accept language, which is great for you web application penetration testers. You can save and encrypt cookies before exiting. You can enable the store of local data if you want to. You can disable it if you don't want to store any local data. And you can use a dynamic fingerprint. I'll get to this in a second. So if I was to click to disable the storing of local data, I can just hit save. That means none of anything will be stored in regards to this identity. So you can see it gave me a success button there, and it's going to load this web page called f.vision, which as you can see, it's called fake vision, which allows you to check whether you were successful in the creation of a fake or new identity that is as accurate as possible in regards to giving you the experience of being someone else when you really aren't. Okay. So if I can just hit start tests, you can see that it's going to start running tests in regards to what is running on your browser and how good your identity is protected here. So you can see that right now, what's happened, if you look at the bottom toolbar right here, it's going to tell you using Tor. It's going to say that you are using Tor and the browser that you're using is Opera Mini. Now you can see that that isn't true. That's where the whole idea of changing your user agent comes into play. Now you can see that your IP is changed as well, and the fact that your operating system is displayed is okay, but you might want to change that as well. Now, by default, you can see I'm not running Opera Mini by any stretch of my imagination. So if I was to run a new tab right here, you can see I can select or open a new tab with a different identity. How awesome is that? So I'm just going to use my default Tor identity here. And if I was to open up the site DNS leak test, leaktest.com, you can see that everything is changed from my IP address all the way to my DNS information. So there we are. Let's just open this up. And right now it's saying I'm from Romania, which I am not. And I'm going to hit standard test to test my DNS servers. Let's see where they point to. So I'm just going to give that a second. And there you are. The first one is going through Romania. We then have one going through Cloudflare. We have one going through France, Switzerland, and finally through France again. So there we are. All my DNS information is perfectly protected. Now, one of the most impressive features for me was if I go into preferences right here, you can see that I can change the start page, the default start page. I can change that to DNS leak test if I wanted to do that. I can change my search engine, which as you know, if you're focused on privacy and anonymity, I would recommend sticking with DuckDuckGo. And then finally, your default user agent, which it essentially describes what browser you're using and what operating system it's running on. So by default, you can see it's running on, I believe, Google Chrome. If not, there we are, Safari. This is the information about the user agent. Now, that's why I had the tab open here, that essentially the Snapseed tool. A lot of you guys actually recommended this, is I can generate my own user agents here. So you can change it to Safari, you can change it to a random one, you can change it to Firefox. For example, if I wanted to change mine to Safari, and I can generate the user agent here, and then all I need to do is copy this one and I can change it right here. And there we are. Now I can change the default accept language, which is always helpful. I can change the downloads path, whether I'm going to be downloading any files. I can change the font size. I can change the Tor control port, the port through which it goes through, or the node opening port. I can change the system font, essentially customizing everything about your browsing experience. And I can just hit OK. And now we can go back into creating a new tab, for example. And if I was to go back into DNS leak test, you can see that right now it showed us that we were currently in Romania, given the fact that our IP was generated there. If I was to reload, you can see it automatically changes it every time you reload the instance. Now, again, you have the simple functionality that we had on Tor, where you can change or add a new Tor circuit, reload Tor, or show you the current Tor circuit. All right, so you can do that as well if you wanted to. So you can run the standard DNS information, the DNS tests, and let's see what it returns to us. And we give that a few seconds, let that load up. And if we go back into the default identity, or we can change or add a new identity, let's see how to add a proxy. So in here, if you have purchased premium proxies, you can also use that as well. If you're interested in using proxies rather than using Tor, which is also a good idea. But just remember to select one that is awesome. Now, if you're looking for a free proxy which aren't that bad, but you have to, you're really going in blind, not knowing whether they're storing any of your information, especially passing your traffic through a third party is not the best idea. So I would recommend sticking with Tor. But if you want to use a proxy, they do allow this. So if I was to go into my session and let's say I want to say SOX5 proxy 1, just to change things up. And I can add comments right there. So it's right here. You want to go into SOX5, sorry, not HTTP, SOX5, paste the connection IP, and you want to also paste the port, which is 4145, like so. And if I was to do that right now, 4145, and if there is a login or you want to pass it through a custom DNS like the Cloudflare one, you can also do that as well, and just hit save, and you're pretty much good to go to use the proxy. It will work as and how the proxy works in regards to where its location is. Now, of course, I don't recommend running proxies because they're really unreliable, and as I said, you're passing your data through a third party. Now, you can also look at your current your created identities, and you can sort them out. So for example, we have the Tor default browsing. The platform is Windows 32-bit, which in my case it isn't. So that's good. It does consider the platform to be one of which it isn't. Mine is Windows 64-bit. And yeah, you can see that it does work fantastically well. Now, if I was to open up a new tab and just look at my identities, you can see it's going to tell you when it was last used, when it was created, and any of the comments you wanted to specify. As for using the user agent, I've already specified how to do that. Now, of course, as I've mentioned, your data is being protected by off-the-record or off-the-record encryption. It's being protected by AES 256 encryption, that being the encryption algorithm. Or you can also use Tor, you can use SOX5 proxies, and you can also use tunneling, which is unheard of in any other browser. So in my opinion, this is probably the best browser if you're looking for a safe and secure browser in regards to you controlling your identities, because Tor is kind of on autopilot and there's only so much you can control with Tor. Alright, and the thing I love about this is the fact that your data is encrypted, your traffic is encrypted. Now, of course, with Tor, it's the same thing. But in this case, your traffic is encrypted, so your ISP, being if you change your initial DNS server, cannot be tracked because your traffic is encrypted, similar to what you would have with a VPN. So if you are looking for a private and secure browser, then this is probably the one I would recommend to you. Now, of course, it's a new project and it relies heavily on your support. So if you want to support the project, please do check out their website. It really is a fantastic product, one that I'm happy to see, given the fact that I'm really into protecting people's privacy and data. We really need to take a stand on this topic if we want to progress, especially into the future with everyone's data safe and secure. With that being said, that's going to be it for this video, guys. If you did enjoy this video, you found value in it, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions or suggestions, let me know in the comment section or on my social networks, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. Peace, guys.